The final SmackDown before WrestleMania 41 didn't just add fuel to the fire. It revealed the foundation was never sturdy to begin with. Cody Rhodes, the golden child of WWE's post-Vince McMahon era, found himself completely exposed not just by John Cena's heel turn, but by everything that came with it. This wasn't the John Cena who ran the company for 2 decades, with a gleaming smile and a chain gang loyalty gimmick. This was a different monster entirely, and Rhodes, despite all the goodwill and sentiment tied to his story, stood in front of that monster with no armor. It started with a crossroads, sure. That moment when Cody got the last word physically on SmackDown may have looked like triumph, but in reality, it was desperation. Cena had already won the moment he entered the ring, not with fists or fake tears, but with words and truth. The crowd was waiting for Cody to be their hero, but the moment Cena opened his mouth, the atmosphere changed. Not because Cena lied, but because he told the kind of truth that can't be shaken off by a passionate promo or a babyface stare. Cena stood there and told the world what many had whispered for months. Cody Rhodes isn't the guy, he's the placeholder. That statement landed like a dagger. Cena didn't need to scream it or drive it home with theatrics. He just let the crowd react, because deep down, they already knew. The narrative Cody built, finishing the story, honoring his father, leading the company into the future, sounded great on paper. It was a powerful hook, an emotional anchor. But once the real shark showed up, that emotional veneer cracked. Rhodes looked like a man defending an ideal that no longer had legs under it. Cena's heel turn didn't just flip the script. It lit the old one on fire and forced the audience to read between the ashes. It was never just about a match. It was never just about a title. Cena's reemergence and descent into darkness have created a standard that no longer fits Cody's sentimental framework. For years, Rhodes relied on fan empathy and underdog energy. But once Cena returned and questioned whether Cody had truly earned the main event spotlight, or if he was just the best option left, something irreparable broke. When Cena said he built the house that Cody was living in, it wasn't a catchphrase, it was a reality check. Cena didn't tear Cody down for the sake of heel heat. He simply pulled the curtain back. And what lay behind that curtain was a man who's more symbol than substance. Cody was the emotional rebound the WWE needed after the Roman Reigns monopoly. Fans wanted someone to believe in again, someone who wasn't obsessed with legacy numbers or part-time dominance. But in choosing Cody, they chose safety. Cena returning in this form showed how far from dangerous Cody actually is. Cena's words weren't venom. They were forensic, clinical. The way he spoke about Cody not being ready wasn't cruel, it was objective, and that's what hurt more. It wasn't personal, it was structural. The final SmackDown laid bare the dynamic that will define WrestleMania 41. Cena doesn't just want to beat Cody. He wants to remind everyone why guys like Cody can't carry this era. And that reminder is brutal, because Cena, as a heel, doesn't need fan support. He doesn't need validation. He doesn't even care about titles in the same way anymore. His heel work is psychological warfare, and Cody walked right into the trap. That crossroads was just a scream in a thunderstorm, loud for a moment, but meaningless once the skies opened up. Even the way Cena stood during their confrontation told a story. No hustle, loyalty, or respect. No colorful gear or over-the-top crowd pandering. Just silence, stillness, and the kind of presence you can't manufacture. Cody, meanwhile, tried to project confidence, but every sentence he spoke was laced with a kind of performative belief, as if he had to talk himself into it more than anyone else. Cena saw right through it. The crowd started to see through it too. When Cena accused him of living off sympathy and calling it legacy, the arena didn't boo, they paused. Because again, deep down, they understood. Cody Rhodes always stood at the intersection of reality and myth. He built his modern WWE career on a story that felt more earned than constructed. But what Cena's heel version did was dismantle that mythology with surgical precision. He questioned whether Cody's return was about wrestling or redemption. He exposed the contradiction in a man who left to prove himself, but returned to be handed the keys. Cena spoke like a man who watched from the outside and saw the foundation was built more on marketing than merit. And when he said Cody finished the story just so he could start a new lie, it didn't sound like trash talk. It sounded like prophecy. Cena's heel character doesn't scream for attention. It forces you to confront hard truths. It reflects the cold cynicism that sits just under WWE's polished exterior. He embodies the idea that nice guys don't run kingdoms. They get run out of them, and Cody, in trying to prove that decency and emotion can still rule, walked directly into the fire of that contradiction. Cena didn't have to cheat or lie to undermine Rhodes. He simply had to exist. Even the crowd's reactions to Cena's barbs weren't traditional heat. They were mixed, confused, conflicted, because Cena didn't insult their intelligence. He questioned their loyalty. He asked them why they needed Cody so badly. And when you force a fan base to reckon with its own desperation, You win the war before the match even starts. Cody looked like a man clinging to a narrative that the crowd was no longer sure they believed in. Cena's heel work forced them to look in the mirror, and what they saw wasn't inspiring. It was vulnerable. In that moment, Cody Rhodes became what Cena said he was, a symbol that no longer holds the weight it used to. He became the thing he fought so hard not to be, just another champion waiting to be forgotten, when someone more real, more raw, more willing to confront the system arrives. Cena isn't playing a villain, he's playing history, and history has a way of erasing sentiment when facts show up. Cody, for all his heart and resilience, simply didn't have the facts on his side anymore. Everything about Cena's presence on SmackDown was proof of that. He didn't wrestle, he didn't need to, he just talked. And when Cena talks in this mode, titles shrink and legends get small. Rhodes tried to hold the belt like it gave him authority, but Cena treated the title like a souvenir. His power didn't come from gold. It came from clarity, and clarity is what Rhodes has always tried to blur with emotion and legacy. Cena took that away with a few sentences, and suddenly Rhodes looked like a placeholder in his own championship story. SmackDown didn't just preview WrestleMania, it revealed the story already ended, and not the story Cody wanted to finish. Cena's heel turn didn't come with pyro or betrayal. It came with an emotional scalpel. He didn't stab Cody in the back, he dissected him in public. The story that Cody thought he owned turned out to be rented, and Cena just came to collect the keys. The Rhodes family saga might still matter to some fans, but Cena reminded everyone that emotional heritage doesn't keep a company alive. Power does. Cody once walked into WrestleMania 39 as the heir apparent. At 40, he's walking in as a man trying to convince the world he still deserves the throne. And Cena, by turning heel, became the dragon at the gates, not because he's evil, but because he knows the kingdom was built on borrowed faith. He isn't just trying to win, he's trying to demolish everything that Cody's reign represents. The illusion that vulnerability is strength when you're standing alone against giants. And when Cena said that Cody wasn't ready, it didn't sound like mockery. It sounded like inevitability. The scary part isn't that Cena turned heel, it's that maybe he didn't. Maybe this is who he always was. And if that's true, then the version of John Cena Cody Rhodes is about to face isn't a character. It's a reckoning. Rhodes may still walk into WrestleMania as champion, but after that final SmackDown, no one walks in believing he's the favorite. Cena shifted that balance with silence, smirks, and savage honesty. Cody didn't lose the match yet, but he lost the narrative. And in today's WWE, the narrative is everything. Cena didn't have to betray anyone to expose Rhodes. He just had to stand in front of him long enough for the crowd to realize they'd settled. WrestleMania 41 may mark the end of Cody's story, but not the way he thought. Not with cheers, with reality. The symbolism was always stronger than the substance. And that became painfully obvious the moment John Cena stared through Cody Rhodes like he wasn't even there. That kind of energy doesn't come from a place of hatred. It comes from detachment. Cena had nothing to prove anymore, which made his heel turn that much more damning. This wasn't a man bitter about being forgotten. It was a man disgusted that the business he once protected was being passed on to someone he deemed unworthy of its weight. Cody didn't just inherit the torch. He inherited the expectation to carry it with fire. Cena saw instead a flicker. A performer who mistook resilience for revolution. Cody's whole championship identity was designed to feel like destiny fulfilled, but destiny can only survive if belief stays intact. Cena shattered that belief not by interrupting Cody's promos or attacking him from behind, but by allowing the illusion to play out just long enough to expose itself. Rhodes would talk about family, about legacy, about proving people wrong, but the longer he spoke, the more you noticed that Cena wasn't moved. He wasn't threatened. He wasn't impressed. He was waiting for the lie to implode under its own weight. And eventually, it did. That last SmackDown segment functioned like a trial. And Cena wasn't playing the heel. He was the prosecution. Cody stood there testifying on his own behalf, pleading with the WWE Universe to remember all the times he fought, bled, and sacrificed. But the problem was never effort, it was relevance. Cena's version of evil wasn't chaotic. It was rational, cold, brutally efficient. He called into question the very roots of Cody's character. Was he really the one to lead the company? Or was he the byproduct of a void left behind by Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and even Cena himself? This wasn't a feud based on betrayal or opportunism. It was an indictment. Cena didn't just want the title. He wanted the delusion to end. He wanted to remind the fans that feel-good stories don't win wars. Cody had framed himself as the people's champion, but Cena didn't buy it. He saw a man cosplaying as a savior, using nostalgia and family trauma as currency. And when Cena spoke with that eerie calm, stripping away every justification Cody had ever leaned on, It made Rhodes look like a man who finally realized the foundation he was standing on wasn't concrete. It was glass. There's a reason Cena didn't need to lay a hand on Cody for most of their build-up. He already had him cornered psychologically. The crossroads at the end of SmackDown was more than a finisher. It was a panic response. Cody needed that move to remind himself he still had control, but he didn't. The audience saw the desperation behind the gesture. That wasn't a champion asserting dominance. It was a man trying to drown out a voice he couldn't silence.